Nobody feels more at home this evening than our next honoree, which is Tom Lambie. His impressive career began right here at this club because his house was just off of the 6th green. From caddy to U.S. Army Air Corps pilot to collegiate golf star at Stanford University to builder and owner-operator of the historic Coronado Golf Course right here in Scottsdale, Tom's life and career has been remarkable over more than 50 years in this game. Along the way, he demonstrated an impressive playing career, and also including the 54 Arizona Public Links Championship and 57 Arizona Open Championship. And he too enjoyed a special tie to the legendary Arnold Palmer in the 1958 Phoenix Open, the same year the King captured the first U.S. Masters of his career. Let's take a look at the life and the career of this hometown legend.
Tom Lambie wasn't born on a golf course. It just seems that way. When his family moved from Pennsylvania to Phoenix when he was 9, they settled in a home adjacent to the 6th green at Phoenix Country Club. It took only minutes before he was a fixture at the club, either as a caddy, often for Dr. E.M. Pafford, or selling lemonade to players at the 7th hole. Or, when dusk arrived, sneaking onto the course with his pals for a few holes. It was the start of an association with the game that's now in its 9th decade.
His playing ability as a youngster and in college was terrific. I mean, he was the best amateur in the state of Arizona for several years running.
A star golfer and student at North Phoenix High School, Tom arrived at Stanford University as a freshman, having picked the school for its golf course, but returned home after a tough quarter and began to dominate the local amateur scene playing for Phoenix Community College. He won the 1941 Phoenix Amateur at the end of the year, having started that year by making the cut in the Western Open at the club he used to sneak onto, and matching Ben Hogan's second-round 68 in the process. He made the cut in the Western Open of 1942 as well, while waiting to go into the Army Air Corps. Before he got the call, he scored a victory in the Phoenix Country Club Invitational, beating a fellow named Bing Crosby on the 3rd extra hole of their semifinals showdown. There was one more title, the Encanto Golf Club Invitational, along with a runner-up finish in the Arizona Amateur at Globe, before Reveille sounded, and Lambie went to war, flying photo reconnaissance missions in a P-38. To his thinking, the fastest and best plane ever made. 50 successful missions earned him a stateside posting to train newcomers before the war ended, and allowed him to compete in the 1945 Invitational at PCC while on leave. After the war, it was back to Stanford, this time to stay and succeed.
Tom was captain of the team and went to the intercollegiate, and we met at the tee. We had a close match. I closed him out 2-1, and he didn't talk to me for 3 years.
Tom won the Pacific Coast Conference title as a sophomore. The same season, the Indians captured the NCAA championship, and he helped Stanford to third-place finishes the next 2 years, captaining the team as a senior.
There was one fellow that played at our team, Tom Lambie, who was the best striker of the golf ball that I'd ever seen, I think. He was a very good player. He went far in a lot of big amateur tournaments around the country.
Then it was back to Phoenix. He became an executive for Del Webb, which allowed him to play amateur golf when he wasn't doing such chores for Webb, as keeping track of the players on the farm teams of the New York Yankees, of which Webb was the half owner. Tom captured 2 Arizona Public Links titles in this time, but finally turned pro when his wife, as well as college teammate Bob Rosberg, finally convinced him it would pay off. It did. He started as an assistant to Johnny Bulla in Pennsylvania, then returned to the Valley, settled at Encanto, and promptly won the 1957 Arizona Open, edging Bulla by a stroke over 3 rounds. The margin accounted for in an opening 64, which Tom said was the only time he beat the great man in thousands of rounds. By 1958, Tom was the first head professional at the New Century, and now Orange Tree, Country Club. A stint at Webb's Sun City preceded Tom's greatest contribution to Arizona golf, building and opening Coronado Golf Course in Scottsdale.
He ran a tight ship there, but he'd say, green fee and a bucket of balls, that's my business. And he was right.
He designed it, and he graded the greens, he graded the tees, he did everything.
A short course with 2 sets of tees, Coronado also boasted a big lighted range that quickly became the go-to spot for members of the golf team at nearby Arizona State, and others young and old, attracted by a teaching staff that included Joe Nichols, Dick Taylor, and Joanne Winter. Coronado was immediately successful, and became even more so after Tom brought in next-door neighbor Milt Coggins as a partner. In all, Tom was at Coronado 23 years before retiring, his legacy assured. It's found across tournament champions plaques, and especially across his 41 favorite acres that he turned from dirt and scrub to sand and grass in Scottsdale. How good was Tom Lambie the player? Here's one example. In 1958, he hosted old pal Rosberg during Phoenix Open Week. Rossi brought along his tour buddy, Arnold Palmer. All 3 teed it up. Tom Lambie was the only one of the 3 to make the cut.
He has integrity. And I told him once, I said, I read something once where if a person has integrity, nothing else matters. If a person doesn't have integrity, nothing else matters. And he never had to worry about the second one.
You know, I have a slogan that is very common, I suspect, but it only takes one who cares. Tom Lambie cared.
The bad news is I only have one direction to go after that introduction.
Well, it was a great
Down.
I love the fact that you made Arnold so ticked off in '58 he decided to go out and win a major championship. But let's go all the way back to the 6th green, like Arnold. Yours, the 6th green of Phoenix Country Club. He grew up there in Latrobe on a golf course. Tell us about the caddying and maybe a little bit about the sneaking on that golf course to play and practice. What was it like?
Well, that was 80 some odd years ago. My memory's not that good, but I started out as a 9-year-old selling lemonade. There was a picture of the lemonade stand
Great
I had
picture.
on that 6th green. And I graduated from selling lemonade to caddying when I was about 12. So I've probably gone around Phoenix Country Club more than any other living person. Because from then until a few years ago, I played almost every day here. And so I knew every sprinkler head, and selling lemonade in those days didn't have water fountains like they do now. They had canvas water bags hanging by the tree. So early in the morning, I'd go out and empty those water bags. By the time they got to the lemonade stand, they were dying of thirst. So I became wealthy at 10 years old.
You should have been Merchandiser of the Year back then. How much did all that experience here at PCC?
I'm really having trouble hearing.
Oh, I'm sorry.
Yeah.
How much did all of that experience here at PCC help you when you played in the Western Open? You said you played here so many times,
Yeah.
and a number of those were during professional tournaments.
Well, it must have helped because every time I played someplace else, I played lousy. So I grew up here, and I knew, the newspaper said one time I knew every grasshopper on the course or something like that. So being here, playing so much and caddying here so much, it had to be a help because I did go other places and didn't play nearly as well as I played here.
One of the other places you went was Stanford University. Obviously had some terrific players.
Great course. Did you ever play there?
Absolutely have. Wonderful place there.
It was even better, and they've changed a few holes because the roads had to go in, but it was one of the great courses in the world.
What do you remember about your college experience? So many great players from there. So many great players from
We had
Stanford.
a lot of good players on our team. As I say, we won the national championship as a sophomore, third as a junior, and third as a senior. And a week before the event, the coach kicked Rosberg off the team, who was one of the best players in the country.
Sure.
And we finished third without him. And the guy who replaced him picked up in the first round. So he couldn't have been worse than third. And we had probably won again if Rosberg hadn't. In those days, the coach's authority was such that you didn't question. They kicked him off the team. Now the team would have gone and said, hey, you're hurting our chances to win. And that would never have happened.
And Rossi never struck me as someone who would excel under those kind of circumstances, let's just say. But he had the conversation with you, though, about turning
I've got a
professional.
lot of stories on Rosberg.
There are so many of them.
I'll tell you one quick
Let's get
one.
it.
Playing the Tucson Open, 1955, he's in the final group of the day. And you got to be in the top 3 to be in the final group. I don't know his first, second, or third. We were traveling together, and after the round, there were four of us in one car with suitcases and golf bags and everything going from there to San Antonio. And he double bogeyed the 5th hole, par 3. I said, how'd you double bogey that? And he said, well, I took a 7-iron. You couldn't reach that green with a 7-iron. He said, I didn't have anything left between a 3-wood and 7-iron. They were all broken. And he was in the third group from the lead. He might have been the lead. He was either first, second, or third. I don't know which. So that was his temper.
And it was the 5th hole?
But it,
5th hole, you said? Or you had...
That was by the 5th hole. He didn't have anything between a 3-wood and a 7-iron. They were all broken with all that gallery.
So what did he say to get you to become a professional?
He really didn't do anything.
No.
We saw the success he had, and I wasn't happy working in an office with a tie and seeing the sunshine outside. And we saw his success, and my wife and I agreed that we love golf a lot more than working in an office. So in that respect, he influenced me, but not by word.
Okay. So in the late 50s, you had been a lemonade magnate. You had gone into the service.
I like that.
Gone into the services. You'd obviously had that office job, but then played on the tour as well. But then you took the step to own a golf course. Was it always a dream of yours?
No, not really. Never even thought of it. I'd been the first pro. I was going to be the assistant to Johnny Bulla at Orange Tree, which was called Century Country Club in those days. And I was going to be his assistant. And about 2 weeks before they opened the course, he decided not to take it. So it was too late to find a new pro, so they hired me. I got my first job there. And after that, I spent a year at Sun City with all the old people, and that was the worst job I ever had in my life. So then I didn't have a job, and we were driving to play at Mesa, and we drove by 76th Street and Thomas Road, and I looked at a vacant lot where there were broken cars and tires, and it was a junkyard out in the desert. And I said to one of the guys, that'd be a great place for a golf course. And 2 days later, he said, hey, I made an appointment with you to talk to the owner of that thing. I had no intention of building a golf course, didn't have the money to build it. But I did go to see him, and one thing led to another, and I went to the bank, and they agreed to lend me the money, and all of a sudden I built a golf course. And that was the best thing I ever did. I was very fortunate, very lucky. Been lucky all my life.
Well, was there ever anything that you wanted to do that you didn't succeed at? It sounds to me like everything you've wanted to do, you've done pretty well. I wouldn't call that luck, sir.
The best thing I did is sitting at that table right there. I've got 4 kids there and some granddaughters and other kids.
That's
the
fantastic.
That's the best thing I ever did.
That is. You're 96 years old, is that right?
97 in March.
97 years old in March, and some of the guys were telling me as they were trying to get in touch with you to try and talk about what tonight was going to be like, they got you on the phone, and midway through the conversation, you said, I'm sorry, I got to go. And they said, well, where are you going? What are you doing? He said, I've got to go to the gym. I'll call you back in an hour.
Oh.
97 years old. That's why I guess you're 97.
I think that's true. I think that did happen.
Well, as you look at your wonderful trophies here and what you've done in the game of golf, as we wrap this up, could you just reflect on what all the game has given back to you after all you've given to it?
I've been extremely blessed, is all I can say. Very fortunate, both in lots of ways. One way in flying the 50 missions during the war, I was so lucky to come out of that. And I've always been lucky.
Well, sir, we're lucky and blessed to have you be on our side during that war, be in our game for so long, and we appreciate your time and your service.
appreciate being up here and being inducted. I owe a lot to the Southwest section.
And they to
It's been a
you.
pleasure.
Thank you, Mr. Lambie.